Good evening, everybody. Sorry for the delay. Well, there is a special technical term for what just happened. It's called Houston, we have a problem. But thanks to Leia, we solved the connection. Uh, we have a number of people on here, and just a few words aimed primarily at those who are not regular attendees of the Friday night speaker series. Uh, One of the great benefits of living in a town like Waterville Valley are our neighbors. We get to know them, we get to know what their backgrounds are, what their interests are, what they're reading, what they agree with us or disagree with us on. And it really is a privilege to be in a community in which there are, particularly a ski resort, in which there are things to discuss in addition to powder snow and what wax we're using. Anyway, so the Race Center serves an important purpose that way. And certainly one of the aspects which we introduced a few years ago is the Friday night speaker series. Obviously, the talks are of interest in themselves, but above and beyond that, it's an opportunity for us to go and learn what our neighbors are doing, and in the future, go and take advantage of that. Go when you run into them at Jugtown or at Town Square or on the golf course. It gives you something else to talk about. And so I urge you all to attend all. I heard some discussion earlier about it possibly being an inconvenient time at the end of this scheduled season in the early spring. Leigh and I will put out a questionnaire, and we'll see if there is a preferred meeting hour. But this seems to be working pretty well. So next week is Mike Capel talking about current perspectives, law, and what we have to expect. God, if anybody knows, maybe Mike knows. We look forward to that. For those newcomers who may not be aware of it, there are three easy and rather valuable ways to stay in touch with the community. One is, of course, subscribing to the Wigwag. Best $3 you'll ever spend. Second, of course, is making sure you're on Jan Stern's list for the Waterville Valley Insider. And the third is to tune in on Tuesdays at 10 o'clock in the morning on the web to listen to the town update on what's open, particularly as things are changing so rapidly. And Leah told me that she was going to put the contacts for all of these on the chat room today.
They're on there now. Yeah.
Great. Okay. With that, I'm very pleased to introduce my old friend Al Larsson, another space cadet, and we spent a lot of time looking up. So tonight we'll talk about night skies. Hi, Al.
Hi there, everybody. I don't know whether I'll have a problem. My screen just said that I had some kind of a squirrely internet connection. So hoping that doesn't mean anything, I'll proceed. And I was going to start with some preliminary thoughts about our history, a long history of observation of the night sky here in Waterville Valley. Hans Ray used to hold sessions showing people, especially the young people, the wonders of astronomy. His work in astronomy was well known, and his constellation diagrams are the ones that I'll predominantly show on some of the slides tonight. Astronomy is a hobby that doesn't require any particular background and can be enjoyed casually or seriously, with or without equipment. You know, you can just go out and look up. If you get really interested, there are even opportunities for amateurs to aid in professional research. And that's because they need a lot of people to look at things like variable stars and a number of other specialized things for which there just aren't enough professional astronomers. So they make use of some of the advanced amateurs. So anybody who really cares can even find things to do that way. Now, I'm not an astronomer. I'm an engineer. And my interest in astronomy started really a long time ago. My grandparents had a place on Winnipesaukee and occasionally a big old brass telescope. You know, those big, long brass telescopes that everybody thinks of as a telescope. And we used to look at the moon and particularly at Saturn at times. You know, that whetted the appetite a bit. And then many years later, Dottie and I bought a small telescope with a clock drive that allows it to track the motion of the night sky. If you go out and lie down or just sit in a chair and look up and fix your gaze, you'll notice that the sky objects move from east to west. Well, this little telescope, in an unsophisticated way, had a little clock motor and followed it pretty well. And beginner's luck is one of those amazing things we often run into. And on the day that Mars was closest to Earth, and that was August 27, 2003, it tracked for us all night. We were there along with Dave McDonald, who at the time was the head honcho at the McAuliffe Shepherd. Well, it wasn't Shepherd, it was the McAuliffe. And shortly after that, we started actually doing regular programs here in the valley at the Curious George Cottage. That, of course, preceded the Ray Center. And we did that for a number of years along with the Krista McAuliffe. And subsequently, when the Ray Center was formed, we started doing some astronomy sessions with New Hampshire Astronomical. And those of you who have attended some of those sessions know that we've got some really amazing people who come and bring a great deal of specialized knowledge and real interest. Ed Ting is one who's done a great many of our sessions. He's anxious to get back, so we're waiting for this coronavirus thing to get over with. As I mentioned, on August 27, 2003, the Mars closest approach to the Earth took place, closest in about 60,000 years. Now, this is only slightly closer than in other years. It's not, didn't come in and visit us, land on the South Lawn or anything. But the next year, on August 27, we had a session and the cottage was full when we got there. People were waiting to see Mars, and they were waiting to see Mars about the time when we started doing these sessions with the New Hampshire Astronomical Society, and kept this collaboration going. We normally do a session either indoors or outdoors, depending on the weather. And of course, at present, with social distancing, the observing sessions are on hiatus. And that means it's up to us. We can all go out and look up. And that's what I'm going to show you tonight. Some of what we can see. We're really fortunate here. We've got dark skies. And we had a number of visitors who would come up and say, what's that cloudy area? When they look up. They'd never seen the Milky Way. People who live in New York City never see more than about 15 stars at any one time. There's just too much glow. So enjoy the night sky while you're here. All you really need to go out and look up is a dark night. Obviously one without rain, snow, sleet, hail, fog, clouds. If you have binoculars, you can get a enlarged brightened view. The telescope will let you see larger views of planets and the like. And people have always looked up at the night sky. The ancient people didn't have our understanding. Their understanding was quite different. They looked at this stuff up in the sky. They knew the gods had to have put it there because anything they threw up came right down again. So people couldn't have done it. And they thought there was a celestial sphere. And the lights they saw represented whatever the gods wanted to put up. Other gods, humans who had done amazing things, rivers, you name it. And the constellations and many of the stars that we see at night still have the names that were given by the ancients. And of course, people use the star patterns as a sort of a calendar. And also, mariners used it for sailing at night. Now, after Copernicus and Galileo, we found that the Earth and the other planets, asteroids, and comets orbit the sun. You know, we know that now. The Earth rotates on its axis once a day. Entire nighttime pattern in the sky appears to rotate westward. And when you go out, that's about 15 degrees west per hour. So those of you who go out with a telescope, most telescopes see about a 1 degree patch of the sky. That means at most you got something like a 4-minute time before whatever you're looking at drifts out. You have to go and re-aim the telescope, unless you've got a telescope that follows the sky pattern. So anyway, let me start with something that we'll never see, except in a book. This is Hubble Near Field. And prior to January 1, 1925, astronomers didn't agree as to whether there was anything out past our Milky Way galaxy. And even in the 40s and 50s, I remember people talking about the Andromeda Nebula long after Edwin Hubble had determined that it was, in fact, a galaxy. And of course, we now know that the sun is one of hundreds of billions of stars in our galaxy, and that there are hundreds of billions of galaxies in the universe. So never going to run out of things to look at. So we can't see this Hubble Near Field. So now what I'm going to show you is what we can see. The southern sky tonight would look like that. If you go out and look up to the south, of course, you see the Milky Way up in the top. But anybody who hasn't spent a lot of time looking at the night sky looks at this and says, how do I figure out what that means? And of course, the way we do is we learn the constellations. I've shown these in Hans Ray's version. But in Hans's book, and I certainly agree, he didn't suggest trying to learn all these at once. You know, that seems like a tall order. So you might start with a couple. Here's Cassiopeia, for instance. Cassiopeia is a constellation that's always in the sky, circumpolar. Sometimes it looks like a W like it does there, and sometimes it looks like an M. It rotates around. And I don't know, as I'm seeing this, the right side of my screen is cut off. Is it on with our pictures? Does it look that way to everybody else?
I'm completely cut off.
How ours goes is only as far as Hercules on the right.
Probably muted.
Yeah,
Yeah, we have Hercules on the right also.
All right.
so it may be your own personal view of the screen.
But my whole thing went off. It was said my internet is unstable. I mean, my
That's-
computer.
Yep, that's separate.
Okay, anyway, off to the right with Cygnus, I showed where the three stars of the summer triangle are. This is an interesting time of year. We can see the summer triangle and the winter triangle, which is over to the left side. And there's the winter triangle over on the left-hand side, Procyon, Betelgeuse, and Sirius. That's coming into prominence now as we're getting into wintertime. Did the bing bing mean anything? So, and then once again, one should learn maybe one more of the constellations, and that's Orion. Now, this is a good time, by the way, if you're interested in the planets. All of these planets and dwarf planets are showing up. Uranus, and of course the moon is there, Mars, Neptune, Ceres, Saturn, and down in the lower right, we have Pluto. And I thought I'd just give you some pictures of some of what we can see. This is a larger version of the picture that you'll see if you look through one of our telescopes. That's Saturn, of course, probably everybody's favorite. And there is Jupiter. And the moon. And if you've got a small telescope, all three of those objects are excellent targets and of course easy to find. The northern sky shows you very similar things. The one difference is there are never any planets in the northern sky. They're only in the south. And they follow that green line that was in that slide, which is the ecliptic. It's the path that all the planets take as they pass by. And when you go out at night, you're probably going to want to figure out how to find things. So one of the things that you can do is learn some of the star hopping. Probably everybody knows the Big Dipper. Big Dipper is part of Ursa Major, and it's what's called an asterism, as is the Little Dipper, which is up above it. And the Little Dipper has Polaris at the end of its handle. So if you follow the line up, does my cursor show on your screen?
Yes, it does, Al.
Ah,
Yes,
okay.
it does, Al.
So if you follow that up, boom, you get to the North Star. And a lot of people expect Polaris, the North Star, to be a very bright star, and it's not. The only reason it's fairly easy to see is there aren't a lot of stars around it. And once you know about this path, it's pretty easy to find. This Big Dipper, if you follow this around, you get to the star Arcturus. And the astronomers who have visited with us used to talk about arc to Arcturus. And then what you don't see, because it's not on this image, it's a little further over, Spike to Spica, another star. So there are a great many different schemes for how to find your way around, and a lot of them take place from the Big Dipper. A favorite target is the Andromeda Galaxy. As I mentioned earlier, that was thought to be a nebula until they realized with a big telescope, a 100-inch telescope, that they were actually seeing stars in it and not just clouds. M stands for Messier. He was a comet hunter, and he kept seeing these little fuzzy things when he looked in his telescope. And so he started keeping a table of them, because if he found a comet, it would move. If he found one of these things, these Messier objects, this M31 being one, the Andromeda Galaxy, it would stay put. So there were 110 of them that he discovered. And then there are thousands of others in other categories of deep space objects, more than I care to ever try to figure out. And as I mentioned, the Wooded Triangle, that's Betelgeuse, Procyon, and Sirius. And this over here that you can find pretty easily is Orion. Orion's one of those things that's extremely easy to find. I think Cassiopeia is probably the other one that's most easy to detect. Anyway, as I mentioned, deep sky objects, 110 galaxies in the Messier objects. There are nebulas and globular and open clusters. And then other catalogs, NJC, Caldwell. Here's our nearest neighbor. That's the Andromeda Galaxy. It's got a bunch of little satellite ones that are around it. That's Messier 110. This is a fun one to find in a telescope. This is Messier 57, the Ring Nebula. And we've been able to see that on a good dark night with our small scope, with, just a 3.5-inch scope. So that you need a good dark night to get it, but it's a neat object. And this is the Hercules Cluster with, I don't know, tens of thousands of stars in it in the constellation Hercules. And this is, hang on while I find my crib sheet here. It's NGC 7000. It's the North America nebula. And if you look at it really closely, it looks like North America, this part up in here. Even got a little Central America. And that's located yeah, right by Deneb in the constellation Cygnus. And here are two constellations that show up in your eyepiece together. That's M81 and 82. The one on the right is Bode's galaxy, and the one on the left is called the Cigar. This is just an image of what happens in the sky. Speed it up. If I remember correctly, I speeded it up 300 times. As I say, this pattern moves 15 degrees an hour. So anything you're looking at is headed west. Now, how do you find stuff? Well, this I took out of Sky and Telescope some time back. So you can find copies in magazines like Sky and Telescope or Astronomy or something. I'm sure that we can manage at some point to get some of the information that's at the Ray Center. I know we have a fair amount there. And if you have a cell phone, and most everybody does, you can get a definite, easy to use app for the cell phone that's free. There are a number of them. And with that, you can just point that up in the sky and it'll show you what's there. And I've been amazed at how precise it is, more than I would have expected. And one other thing that is easily doable. I took this picture in July. This was comet Neowise. Now, I don't know whether we'll see any more comets that are naked eye comets in the near future, but that's something that's always worth a look. So with that, I'll mention something in the daytime. We're looking at a lot of sunspots right now. And those sunspots may cause us some grief. You know, if the sunspots indicate a lot of solar activity. And if a solar flare is strong enough, it can be kind of bad news for, in the worst case, can be bad news for our power grid. In less bad cases, it disrupts communication. So anyway, with that, I will pause and ask if anyone has questions, comments.
Dr. Larsson,
Yeah,
it's Mike Capel. I have a question.
sure.
I was reading in some of my obscure things that I read when I'm bored today. And I thought I saw that we are significantly closer to a super black hole than was previously believed.
Yep, Dottie just ran into that.
So wait, but here's the question. We mature people, do we have anything to worry about?
Most likely not. This is the same. This is the same black hole we've always had. It's all galaxies have black holes at their center.
Yeah.
It's just they apparently have found that the positioning between us and the black hole is a little different. Dottie read the numbers, and I don't remember how much closer it was than they had originally thought. Yeah, but a couple of thousand out of what?
Couple of thousand light years.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you know, nothing to worry about for us mature people.
Nobody looking at you.
Most likely not. And by the way, just so if you really want to worry, that Andromeda Galaxy that I was talking about, Messier 31, it's 2.5 million light years away from us, and it is going to be coming and joining or crashing into our Milky Way galaxy. So if any of you have any plans to live past the age of 4.5 billion, you have a real worry. It's not expected to have any impact, obviously, on anything in any near future, but most things in the universe are flying apart. But that galaxy is one of our local group. And the local group is sort of coalescing, coming together. Any more worries?
Al, this is Larry. That's terrific. There is so much of interest there. Let's say a word about some of the non-astronomical events that are going on in the space science field. There are a couple happening just this season. For example, the Chinese Chang'e 5
Yeah.
is on the surface of the moon on the backside,
Yeah.
roving around and exploring it. It's tremendously exciting. I'm amazed that the U.S. papers don't give it more publicity than we are.
Has it already landed? I thought it was.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Anyway,
we've heard,
so
heard very little.
watch for that for a while, and then the what was called Mars 2020 is now called Perseverance. Is a major NASA satellite on its way to Mars now, containing, among other things, a Mars rover. It does not have a sample return. It'll do sampling of the Martian surface and pick up a number of pockets of the regolith and keep them for some future time when we will get a mission which will go and land on Mars and bring it back. But don't be fooled. A Mars sample return is an extremely serious and expensive project. But it's in the planning. So that's just a couple of things that are going on now.
But Larry, my understanding of that Chinese rover is that because it is on the side of the moon which does not face us, the amount of information that it's sending back is rather limited. Is that true?
I haven't been following it closely, Mike, but I think that all of the information is being passed through a lunar orbiting satellite. So
Okay.
they get it back. Then they won't get it back as rapidly as if it were a direct moon to Earth transmission. But the initial reports from China were very good.
Looks like,
Yeah.
yes, go ahead.
Hi. So I kept hearing, or I have heard, that there are 4 planets that are going to be in the night sky visible at the same time. Is that so? And what are they?
Well, there were more than that. Hang on a second.
You go back to the slide.
I'm not seeing any of the slides either. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay.
They're asking me to update my Zoom.
Right now, what's in the night sky, we seem to be cut off at the bottom there, but we've got Uranus, Mars, Neptune, Saturn,
Jupiter and Pluto.
Jupiter. Well, Pluto, Pluto got demoted.
So wasn't Neptune demoted?
No. No, Neptune's fine. Well, I don't know whether Neptune's fine, but not demoted anyway. But Pluto was demoted because they put some requirements in as to what was necessary for something to be considered a planet. Well, it had to have enough gravity to have forced itself to be spherical, basically, and then it had to have swept its orbit. And then the other thing was they looked, and there were a bunch of other things. For instance, Ceres and Eris and others of a variety that are small dwarf planets, and so it fit in to that category. So that's what happened to Pluto. We went to a meeting of the New Hampshire Astronomical Society many years ago. Right now, I can't remember the name of the astronomer. He was at the Harvard Smithsonian, but he was one of the ones involved in relegating Pluto to the lesser status when they made,
Bruce Marsden.
yeah, Bruce Marsden, Brian Marsden,
Right.
when they made that decision. So those of us who always remembered that there were 9 planets, we kind of objected to that. So
Mars.
now on December 21, if you've got a telescope and good weather, that's always a problem. You're going to find that Saturn and Jupiter
Well,
are going to be very close together.
that's what I was wondering.
They'll be much closer together than the diameter of the sun. So
Heavy.
So I have a question. You mentioned, because someone else asked or answered mine already, about the different apps. There's a ton of them. I've seen a few. I've put a couple on my phone over the last couple of years and not done anything. We don't have a home telescope. I know where I can access some, but when I'm at home, I'd love to get your recommendation on a couple. I know you've told me before, Al, but
there's a big telescope, by the way, sitting right there in the race center.
I've noticed. But my phone's right here.
The one that I use is, let me get its full name. It's Star Map 3D Plus.
Probably not a free one, huh?
It's free.
Oh. 3D Plus, there it is. Okay. Is it going to be above my head?
And the neat, I'm holding it right now. Let's see, what do I have to do to show it? There. If you can see what's on the screen.
Yeah.
So that it moves very quickly with what it sees
It
in the
says
sky.
it's $3. Can I charge that back to you, Al?
Oh, sure. But the neat thing about it is you get a chance to put in, if you're looking for a particular star, you can put in that star's name. It has a way to do that. And then it will show a green arrow. And you follow the direction of the green arrow with your phone until it finds it. So it's really super easy way to find what's in the sky.
And
Al, I have one which I've been using for some years that I find very easy called Sky Map. And I think that's also free.
I think there are a lot of them.
I don't think that'll show you what it does.
Because the toughest thing, as I mentioned at the beginning, the toughest thing when you go out, especially in a place like Waterville Valley, with a good dark sky, if you go out when it's really dark and you look up, you see all these points of light.
Yeah.
And trying to make any sense out of it is not the easiest thing to do. And the things that are easiest to find, I think, for most people, the Big Dipper,
The
Cassiopeia,
moon.
the Orion constellation, and
I put Cassiopeia right up on.
yeah, that's what I was going to say. Those are the 3 that are probably the easiest to spot. Mostly I showed in the slides that went by, I showed Hans Ray's versions because for the most part, his make more sense. He shows the twins, Gemini. Let's see if I can find it. See, there's Gemini over here. Let's see if
See the twin?
oh, I guess I may have taken it out. I had an image in here at one point of what is commonly called the astronomical version. And if you look at where Gemini is here, now instead of that, imagine something that looks like a croquet wicket. And that's what they showed. And Hans, of course, spent time in the trenches in the First World War. And he didn't like some of what he saw in the standard descriptions of these constellations. So he came up with his own, and that's what he's primarily known for, and as you know, in the astronomy community. And
Al, may I repeat a story I think most of you have heard about Hans Ray?
sure,
And he learned that my children and I were interested in astronomy. When I asked him how he got into it, he said, as you just had repeated, that he was finding the constellations. And he wrote back and he said, "This is very hard. I went to a first-rate German Hochschule, and if I can't find the constellations, there must be something wrong with the book." So he rewrote it. Well, Al, we've clearly had another informative and exciting and beautifully presented session, and we're all very, very grateful to you. I'll turn it back to Leah.
Yes, thank you. It makes more sense when I'm unmuted. So thank you so much, Al. It's great to, again, get a chance to look outside, even if we're all looking inside here. So I appreciate your time. And also for folks, our chat, there are some resources that were put on the chat window. So I'll put that under the video. Once we're done recording, that will be on the previously recorded speaker series as well on our website. So if there's any questions there. And again, it's great seeing you all this evening, and I look forward to getting some exciting tax info with what is going on for next week as well. So thank you, and
Stay safe, everyone.
yep.
same to you. Take care. Have a good evening.
Bye bye.
Bye.
All right.